join us in a very wet white parish near Salisbury, where today we are looking at a Skoda Karoq 1.5 TSI Edition. This one here is a 2018 reg, but they were launched at the end of 2017-ish. Early customer cars arrived in 2018. So because it's wet, I'm not going to spend too long outside. So let's open the bonnet, have a look under there, see what the engine's like, and then we'll go and move to the inside of the car. To open the bonnet on a Skoda Karoq, all you have to do is just pull this little lever down here. It's not too dissimilar actually to the Peugeot 208 and the Vauxhall Combo Cargo, which have been on the channel previously. As you can see, we have Mr Lloyd here helping out with this particular video, as I've helped him out with one of his videos. As you can see, no sort of gas struts to hold the bonnet up on this, just old-fashioned stick, but oh well, it does the job. Under the bonnet then, what we got? We have got, obviously, coolant expansion tank. You've got your dipstick, not mentioning the one behind the camera like me, haha. We've got your oil filler, obviously air filter, battery, all easily accessible when it needs to be. You've got your washers just down here, and you've got a Volkswagen branded part just there, because of course Skoda is obviously part of the Volkswagen group, therefore a lot of Volkswagen branding is going to be on it. You've got Skoda logo just there, and TSI telling you exactly which engine you've got. In terms of oil filters and things like that, I can't seem to see much access for them at all. I imagine you probably have to go underneath the car to get them, but yeah, that's not necessarily the best thing you want. Brake fluid top up just there at the back of the engine, which obviously easily accessible for when you need to do that. And of course, spark plugs, they're going to be underneath all this plastic here, as with most modern cars really, because they're all hidden underneath piles of plastic. Not like the old cars where it's completely engine and no plastic, but there we go. It's a modern trend, we've got to get used to it. Let's go and move on to the interior of the car because I'm getting a bit wet. In typical Walls Wheels fashion, it has pretty much now stopped raining ever since I've got into the car. So there we go, good timing. Anyway, what have we got inside the car? Well, obviously you're greeted by the steering wheel, which is nice and chunky. It's got, I believe it's leather on it, or a leatherette of some sort, but either way, it's very nice. On the wheel, you've got obviously all the controls that you possibly could need. You've got your volume for the stereo, you've got speak, push to talk, if you will, for things like Siri, and obviously the Google equivalent, Alexa. Probably not Alexa, you know what I mean. You've got obviously search through the radio for obviously different radio stations. You've got your blind spot control, answer the telephone, search through radio stations. You've got the lot and everything you could ever possibly need on here. Horn, you got that.
Whoa, that's a loud horn.
It is a loud horn. Okay, on the door, we'll just move on to that then. So over here on the door, you've obviously got your little door pulley, little chrome star, which is very nice. Down here, just located, you have got your little boot release, which, yeah, it's a slightly odd place, but, you know, works. It's easily accessible when you need it, which, of course, getting the boot, nice and easy. On the door itself, you've actually got your electric windows. This car has got all-round electric windows, so drivers, passengers, rear, you get the picture. And, of course, you can stop the rear windows from opening as well. Also just located down here, which maybe not necessarily the easiest thing to access, but you're not going to be doing it all the time, of course, is your electric mirror adjustment. So just turn it around and you can obviously move it like so, which you'll be seeing on the overview. On this car you do have blind spot monitoring, so obviously a little light comes on your door mirrors as you are obviously going along and something comes alongside you, which is incredibly useful given that the fact that the A pillars, B pillars on this are absolutely massive. There's not a lot of visibility looking around. Obviously you've got a massive windscreen, but obviously due to modern safety standards, these things have all been bulked up, so it's not as visible as say something like my Fiat Panda, Renault, or indeed the Mini. As you can see, I've got the key to the car, and it does have keyless entry on this, but of course the stereo will not go on unless the key is actually in the car. So that's good, means your battery won't go flat. But on here, you've obviously got your menus, you've got radio, media, Skoda Connect, Smart Link, telephone, vehicle, navigation, traffic, and you have actually got, I believe, a second bit. So you can adjust your sound accordingly. So if you're someone who likes their bass more than treble, you can change that to your heart's desire. You can also adjust the air conditioning. I imagine that'd be something like temperature. Let's have a click on it. Doesn't say because it needs the ignition switched on. We'll come back to that in a minute then. Media command, your images, so I imagine that's just for the background on this, which makes the Skoda a nicer place to be in, I suppose. Not saying it isn't nice, but has that little personal touch to it. And you also have your settings. Right, before we come back to this with the ignition and all that on, we'll just have a look down here at the actual centre bit. And they have actually got physical push buttons, which I'm absolutely glad they've got on, because a touchscreen, not easy when you've got suspension and you're bouncing around and all that stuff. So you've got heated seats, you've got little adjuster, you've got fan speed to the face, to the feet, recirculation, driver's one, that's obviously your passenger one. You've got your temperature, so obviously hot, cold, standard thing. You have got a heated windscreen, of course, which is rather lovely, especially on those colder days. And you also have this one, because I believe this has got dual zone. So absolutely fantastic. So you can be sat here in baking heat and your passenger can be in the Arctic, essentially, if you really want them to. Or if you're like me at my age, you want to pull a prank on your friends, you can just turn it right down for your friends and keep yours at a nice temperature. Down here then, you've got obviously little traction control off, parking sensors, you can probably switch them off with that, hazard lights, nice solid click. You can lock the doors, which I'm not going to do because one door is open and it'll just go absolutely crazy, and you can turn the passenger airbag on and off. But other than that, you've also got these little buttons to turn off all your vent based things, and yeah, you can change the fan speed and all good on that front. Right. Moving down here, you have got your little 12 volt socket and a USB as well. So of course that means you can plug your phone in, play music, and this stereo actually does have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and actually has Mirror Link as well. Of course it does have its own navigation system, but if you prefer to use Google or Waze or Apple Maps or something like that, you can. Right, on the gear stick then, to get it into reverse, we'll just start with that. You push down, as with most Volkswagen products, put it in like that, easy peasy. Changing through the gears then, first, second, it's got a nice solid click to it. Of course it is a brand new car, pretty much 2 years old, so you wouldn't expect that much wear on the gearbox just yet, but it's absolutely lovely. Down here you also have your electronic parking brake, which personally I'm not a fan of them, but modern cars tend to have them, so it is what it is. This one's got traction control turn off. I did say this one was, that's incorrect. That is your auto stop start turn off and turn back on again. This one here is for your automatic handbrake, so it can turn it off for you if you really want it to. And of course you've got your driving modes, so you can select what sort of driving mode you really want from the car. What more could you want? You've also got bits of storage down here. You've got this little handle on here, which is actually quite stiff. It's not the easiest to move, you know, but there we go. You've also got quite a lot of room in here. You've got little cup holders, got a little spot for, I can only assume, a 1p coin, because that is exactly what's in here. Underneath all these things, which are personal things that belong to Fergus, the owner of this car, you've got quite a large storage bin actually. You can probably keep a smaller phone in here if you really want to, but yeah, not that much room really. You can maybe keep a sandwich at best if you really want to. Ooh, and it slides forwards as well, I've just noticed. Excellent. I wasn't expecting that, in case you haven't guessed. Right, up here on the top of the dashboard we have got a little cubby hole as well, which you can keep your sunglasses in. This is actually quite deep, so, and it's got a nice lining to it as well, nice and sort of velvety. I know it's probably not velvet, but there we go. It's a car, what do you expect? Down here, press this little button and the glove box opens. Ooh, magic. Inside here then you've got your little CD and SD cards for the sat-nav, so you can keep updating it and change things if you need to. But the glove box itself is actually, despite the size of the dashboard, it's not that big. It's just not got a lot of room to it, really. There's not much more to say on it. But there we go. I imagine that could be down possibly to fuse box changes and who knows, but it's just not a very big glove box on this particular car. Door bins, on the other hand, if we're looking down here, these are absolutely massive. Fergus, the owner of this car, has got 2 hand sanitizer bottles, and they're actually quite large hand sanitizer bottles as well, which is obviously, given that we're living in the day and age that we do, rather useful indeed. Of course he's got space for his CDs as well, and a little cloth to wipe over the windscreen and things like that. Moving on above us then, headroom in the front, pretty good despite the fact we've got a full panoramic roof. But speaking of the panoramic roof, you have got all the buttons here, so slide back, slide forward, it's not doing it because the ignition's not on. More just here. Of course you've got these, you've got lights, rear lights, Not actually sure what this one does. I believe this one is for the doors with the little light down there. But yeah, you're pretty well set up in the front of the car, aren't you? So let's have a look and see what the rear passengers get. Getting into the back of the Karoq then, let's have a look around. Headroom. Yeah, it's reasonable. I mean, obviously, because it's a panoramic roof, you're going to get less headroom in the back, but there you go. I mean, I'm getting quite comfortable in here, so I'm sure you will too if you're roughly the same height as me, about 6'1"-ish. With the tables here, they only come up with the press of a little button, which is just here, right on the end, which, given this is going to be a family car, I mean, most people will be buying it for family purposes rather than just travelling up and down the motorway and things like that. Certainly not off-road. I can quite easily see these getting broken by children rather quickly, because children tend not to spend a lot of time looking for buttons to obviously pull things up. But there we go. It is what it is. Down here you've got an absolutely tiny pocket, because obviously the majority of the seat is taken up by this little tray. I've also actually on the tray, despite the fact that it is a little bit interesting, especially for kids to pull up, it is obviously quite large, so you can obviously keep things on it, but a lot of things. But yes, tiny little pockets. Leg room, yeah, there's a reasonable amount of it. It's not too bad. I mean, knee room's maybe suffering a little bit, but that's obviously down to the extra width of the seat because of the table, but so be it. Foot room, however, plenty of it. You can obviously move it forward, backwards, up, down. You've got loads of room. What more can you want? Right, with the back here, you may have already noticed this little bin here, owned by Fergus. Doesn't matter. You can move that out of the way because it's not attached down, but you've obviously got loads and loads of room down here in terms of keeping things. Obviously not for leg room, because you got the tunnel going through here. Yeah, it's going to take up all your room. But down here you do obviously have the vents for the rear, and you have a little 12-volt socket down here. So if you wanted to, and you have, say, 2 kids in the back who are wanting to play Flappy Bird or any other game available on tablet, no sponsorship here, you can get them to plug in a USB or something in there and charge up their tablets whilst you're on a long car journey. In the back here you do also have individual little lights, so you know, if you want to read a book or something in the back of the car, you can. With the seats then, this is where it gets interesting, because we've already seen it with Mr Lloyd filming his particular video on his channel. But you pull this little lever here and that slides forward and reveals 2 cup holders and 1 space which you can keep a small energy drinks can in, which is absolutely fantastic. One thing that surprised us both earlier on, which I will show a bit of footage of now, is the fact that this whole seat can obviously tilt fully forwards, which was a bit surprising when we pulled the tab, but obviously if you need full forwards for obviously all the space that you're going to get in the back, who cares, it's going to be great. The car does also come with ISOFIX attachment points for obviously child seats and things like that. Obviously it's going to be aimed at families. And of course you've got grab handles for when the driver becomes a little bit too enthusiastic around the corners. Right, I think we've had a good look around the back. One thing, just before we go around to the back of the car then, obviously you've got your speakers down here, they're very big and bassy. You do have room for a little bottle down here, probably a 500ml bottle you buy from your average supermarket. And one thing to mention with these seats, which I can't exactly show because they are a bit stiff, but they can actually slide backwards and forwards to give you more room in the boot or for passengers. So, excellent, good job there, Skoda. Now let's officially look in the boot. That's exciting, isn't it? Look, it all just goes up without having to actually touch anything. Amazing! Just for the sake of convenience, whilst we've got the boot open on the Karoq, and we've got that little white Yeti just over there. This has literally just turned up into the carpet just a few seconds ago. But the Karoq, as a model, did actually replace the Yeti. So if you want a bit of a side-by-side, there we go. That's one for you. In the boot then, what have you got? Well, you've got this little floor mat here, which has got Karoq branding on it, because of course Skoda, they're very proud of their product. But in the boot, what do you agree with? A lot and lot of space, basically, because of course it is a big SUV car, so you're going to be greeted with all that space, of course. As I said, the seats can obviously slide forwards a bit more, so if you want that extra bit of practicality, you can. When the seats are slid forwards in this car, I believe the size of it is about 580 litres, and when they're back it's about 479 or so. So really you gain an extra 100 litres or so of space by sliding them forwards. Of course, on this car you can obviously get a roof box and tow bar and things like that, because that's obviously what it's designed for. But if you don't need those things, that's what you've got. Right, Looking on from the boot, as well as the seats being able to slide forwards, there is multiple configurations you can do for these cars, because you can take this middle bit completely out and slide the two sides together a bit more to create a bit more space that way. You can also tumble the seats fully forward, so of course you can get a full-on load space all the way to the driver's seat essentially. And of course you can also take the seats out a la Citroen 2CV style. Obviously I wouldn't imagine you'd be going for a picnic with it, but there we go, that's what it is, so we've got to mention it. Right, moving on to the boot floor in this car. So obviously, as I've mentioned already, Karoq branding, you got like a little rubbery mat, which, you know, going to keep it clean. But under here you do have a space saver, which in itself is quite unusual now anyway, because of course you usually get these inflatable tyre tube things, you know. But under here you do actually have bits of storage located around as well, so you can keep stuff under the floor. So, you know, in the case of something like this, a high visibility jacket, which when travelling in Europe you need, you can obviously keep that underneath the floor when you're not needing it essentially. What else? You've also got these little luggage nets at the side, which are absolutely great, and you've also got some hooks here for bags, so it stops them from sliding around in the boot. Fantastic. Right, over here then you've obviously got a quite clever load blind actually, because look at this action. It covers up the rear window so that if you close the boot, it does it. Like that. I pressed the button, but there we go. It does that, and you actually can't see into the boot. And now if it opens up again, using my powers of magic that I learnt at Hogwarts evidently as a child, yeah, that way then, covers all that up. What more could you want? That way people can't just look into your boot when you're at a car park. In the boot of this car then as well, with these hooks, forgot to mention earlier, they do actually slide along this little rail here, so you can obviously separate things out a bit more. Obviously if you've got something with two different handles in different places, you can lock it on that way as well. But in the boot you do have a little 12-volt socket, so you can plug things in, maybe if you're going camping or something, a little mini fridge if you're really that luxurious, or you can just plug in an air compressor for a bed whenever you're going on holiday, camping, whatever. You know, it's, let's play this way, it's a very practical car for that. But of course, the one thing that is quite noticeable off the top of your head is you do have one boot light just here and one boot light just here. Yes, you have two, which, you know, in the dark, really going to be quite useful for obviously loading up, seeing where things are. Of course, they are LEDs, they're even more bright, which is absolutely wonderful. For getting access to the rear lights, to change the bulbs on these, you've got a little side access panel just here and here, so you just put your hand in and reach out. But it's not going to be the easiest thing, because you do have quite a bit of a gap between panel here and obviously your lights just there, whatever you need to mention. Of course, no modern car is complete in high spec trim, because of course this is the top of the range of the Karoqs at the time of sale. It has a little reversing camera just located here above the number plate, just below the Skoda badge, and of course you do obviously get parking sensors as well, which are quite well hidden because it's a bit grubby at the back, but it's winter, what more can you expect? Down the side then, this is a really cool feature, you're going to love this one. I'm standing awkwardly because it is a bit of an awkward position with the camera, but what you can do, if you press open the fuel filler cap, not easy, look, obviously you've got your fuel filler cap, but this here is an ice scraper. So that means in the winter, obviously you can scrape all the ice off your car, but it's amazing that it actually just comes with one as standard, kept inside, it slides right through, inside your fuel filler cap area. But what it does give you the impression of is that Skoda cares about you and the fact that you keep your windows clear when you're driving. Good mark for the Skoda there. Because this is the 1.5 TSI Edition, 150 horsepower, you get these massive 19-inch alloys as well. The rivals of the Skoda Karoq are of course Seat Ateca, MG HS, Kia Sportage and the Hyundai Tucson. Not Tucson like I thought it was originally said, but yeah. Let me know in the comments guys, what do you think of the Skoda Karoq? Is it rubbish or does it Karoq? Get it? Bit of a pun. Anyway, I think it's pretty good. It's loaded with tech. It's got obviously everything you need. It's practicality for days. You can talk about all the practical options for it, but this is a limited time YouTube video, so there we go. But yeah, let me know guys, what do you think of the Skoda in the comments below. Obviously if you had enjoyed this video, please remember to consider leaving a like, comment, And of course, subscribe if you want to see more videos of obviously me looking around cars and things like that. So yeah, thank you to Fergus for letting us have a look around his lovely Skoda today. And of course, I will see you guys in the very next video. So farewell for now.